Good morning, friends. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast today. And in fact, I'm going to do a series of short podcasts around the concept of listening. So I appreciate you listening. But we're going to talk about deep listening. And we're going to talk about this for each Enneagram type. Okay, so what is deep listening? Well, it comes from the teachings of the Buddhist monk, ticht, nacht, hahn. And he says, deep listening, or he can call it compassionate listening, is the kind of listening that can help relieve the suffering of another person. You listen with one purpose, to help him or her to empty their heart so they can suffer less. Wow. Just take a few seconds to hear the power of those words. To empty their heart so they can suffer less. Oh, we need so much of that today, don't we? Now, feel the shift when we say it this way. To empty my heart so I can suffer less. Oh, that's a shift in thinking. So I'd like to offer the suggestion that we listen to our own voice, starting with the inner childhood message for each of our Enneagram types. Yes, we may be adults, but we carry the memories and these messages from the very beginning of our lives. So, the childhood messages, where do they come from? They could come from a parental figure, a loved one, a teacher, or a friend. But these messages, they may not have actually been spoken to us. And so beyond actually hearing the words as children, we could have created the belief in our own fragile minds through a filter we've already begun to create from our very limited life experience. But early on, however we got this message, we all created a foundational message from which we began to create our lives. So what was this childhood message for type 1s? It's not okay to make mistakes. Oh, how does just hearing those words feel? Breathe. Sometimes just hearing those words can bring about a feeling in our chest and our hearts. It's a heavy message to carry. It's not okay to make mistakes. Well, if you have a history of being taught from the biblical narrative, then you're probably very familiar with the metaphorical story of Adam and Eve, the story of the beginning of humankind. So in this story, Adam and Eve were feeling ashamed and afraid because they were naked and tried to hide from divine source, from God. The voice of God asked them, "Who told you you were naked?" Well, when I think back on that story from hearing it when I was little, I would often imagine this stern accusatory voice, and it came out something like, "Who told you you were naked?" And I don't think that was the case. So today, if I choose to imagine a voice, it's of a loving mother or father who wraps their arms around me, and while they're still holding me close, they say, "Oh, sweet girl, who hurt you? You don't need to be afraid. I've got you." You feel the difference? From the accusatory voice to the voice of someone who just loves you? Well, from the very beginning, we have been in conflict with the adversarial voice in our minds. In the story, they had been naked from the beginning of their existence, but something shifted in their consciousness. What was it? Why were they suddenly ashamed and fearful? So we could certainly go into a theological discussion on this, but whatever your belief is, the question still remains, who told you? Type 1s, who told you it's not okay to make mistakes? And how did you feel when you did? Because we all make mistakes. Were you ashamed? Were you afraid? Who told you you were anything less than perfect love? Who made you feel that being loved depended on your being good? And who decided for you what good even looked like? Sweet child, You are good because you're living. Can you empty your heart just a little bit today? Can you listen deeply with a loving voice? Say it out loud. I am not ashamed. I am not afraid. And it is not up to me to prove my worth or my goodness. Oh, can you empty your heart? Empty your own heart so you can suffer less. When we suffer less, we can love more. Take a breath. Say it. Teach yourself a new message. I am good. Thank you so much.